How's it, everybody? And welcome to the next episode of BandscoreCast. My name's Adam Wenzer and I'm your host for today and all future episodes on BandscoreCast. This is a channel where we look at everything IELTS. And over the last few weeks, we've focused on the writing component, which I hope has brought some value to you guys. And today we're going to be looking at task one, the academic task one, which is line graphs. A lot of people have sort of issues with, it's quite challenging because a lot of people don't really practice writing. And that's why today we're really going to take a step back and talk through the task one, line graph. But before we kick it off, if you like what you see in today's episode, please give us a big thumbs up and subscribe if you would like to do that also, so you don't miss out on any future content. The other way you can support the channel is directly via our Patreon page at patreon.com/BandscoreCast, where you can enjoy many benefits, including having full access to my library of work and having the opportunity to submit task one and task two writing pieces, some of which I will correct right here on the channel. And before we kick it off, the other thing we do with every episode is we give a bit of a shout out to one of our patrons who supports us ongoing. And today I'd like to give a big shout out to Natty. Natty, you're awesome. Thanks for being a continued supporter of the channel and joining in on our live classes. And hopefully we see you today. All right, guys. So today's episode is we are looking at line graphs. So let's talk a little bit about this before we kick it off. One of the biggest challenges that people face when they sit the IELTS exam is the writing component. The big reason that they find this quite challenging is a lot of people simply don't practice writing. Every day we're practicing our speaking, we're listening to people, we're having conversations and we're being quite dynamic in that area. Reading, sometimes people are reading maybe some things off the internet or what have you, but writing is the one thing that people really struggle with simply because we're not practicing. The other thing I would say to this as well is there are a lot of methods that teachers globally employ to show test takers how to sit or how to approach the task one and task two writing component of the IELTS exam. Everyone has their own different way of attacking it, and today I'll show you the Adam way, and I hopefully that will sort of provide value to you guys. And if you can take something from today's episode, then absolutely fantastic. So the class today, let's talk about what we're going to do in today's class. So the actual class sort of schedule will be looking at task one types and essentially how many different type ones can we get with the academic test, and there are a few that we can talk about. Brainstorming vocabulary. We've talked about this in the 3 previous episodes I've done on BandscoreCast with essay writing. Brainstorming vocabulary is still important here as well. We need to make sure that we're using the right vocab for the task, and there are some specific words I'd like to introduce you to today that are very useful. Cohesiveness. Now, cohesiveness really means that it flows. It sort of goes like this. It nicely flows from one section to another. Often when people are writing, they don't really connect things appropriately. So they might make a sentence here, another sentence here, and they don't really connect, and therefore when the examiner's looking at your pieces of writing, they might be like, well, they're making statements, but they're not really cohesively, there's no real cohesiveness there. And we need to really make sure that we've got techniques that can help us do that. And we'll talk about that today as we go through. Obviously, the graph itself, looking at the complete framework of the graph, and at the end, as we've done with the previous episodes of BandscoreCast, we will avail it to you for free for download, and then you can have a look at it and practice it and go from there. All right, are we ready? I think we are. Let's do it. All right, so the next section we're going to be looking at here is the actual line graph itself. So here's one that you won't see anywhere else because I wrote it and I designed it. So the question here is the following line graph shows global sales of 3 different types of pasta from 1975 to 2000, so over a 25-year period. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. So the first thing I want to point out is with academic task 1, this part here is the actual question. This is really the actual question itself. This is the thing that will be different for each academic task 1 that you do for IELTS. This wording here is the same wording that you will see on every single academic task 1 for IELTS. It's summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Now, the first thing to talk about here is the actual paper is asking you to select and report the main features and for you to make comparisons where you see as relevant. What's interesting about these questions for IELTS is it doesn't say, you know, report on this, and make comparisons here and here. It's leaving you to make that judgment. So this is where a lot of people say to me, well, Adam, what do I do? What do I actually write here? It's like, well, we need to make some informed decisions, you know, about what we believe are the best things to actually summarize, the best things to identify, and to write down. So let's look at it. So this is the graph that the line graph that I've put together. You might think, oh my goodness, what is this? How am I going to do that? We can do it. We can do it. There are techniques to do this. The most important thing is don't try to look at everything at the same time and think, oh, I need to talk about everything at once. What we want to do is we want to separate this into individual lines, and then we want to narrate each of those lines from start to finish, looking at, you know, where there are movements in the middle of each line. But most importantly, just taking our time, looking at it at the start and thinking, what do we see here? So what do we see here? Let me ask you this question. When you look at this line graph, what do you see? What's the first thing you see here? The first thing I see here is there's lots of activity. There are lots of fluctuations. There's lots of ups and downs. But ultimately, what I would look at first is what's actually happening from the start to the finish. So the pink line is spaghetti. The light blue line is fettuccine. The dark blue line is macaroni. So the spaghetti line, ultimately, the sales, the actual, the tonnage, or the millions of tons that are being consumed globally, is going up. So the pink line is going up. The light blue line is also going up. The dark blue line is going down. Even though there are fluctuations in the middle, that's basically what's happening here. We've got these movements in the middle, but we should initially be looking at where it starts and where it finishes, and that's where we do begin. At that point, I would also look at the axes, so what's on the left of the screen and down the bottom of the screen. So here we've got millions of tons. So this is how many. So tons is a weight similar to kilograms, tons, different measurement, a different type of measurement. But here we're talking about millions of. So on the left-hand side, we have 20 million, 40 million, 60 million, 80 million, 100 million tons, 120 million tons. Down the bottom, we have the years. We have 1975 all the way up to 2000. Now, what's interesting with academic task 1 line graphs and other analysis that you will do is, irrespective of the years, we're not going to talk in the past, and we're not going to use past tense. We're going to use present tense, because when we're narrating a chart like this, we want to make sure that we're almost disregarding the years, and we're just looking at the information that we are being presented with right now. So, you know, this moves here, present simple. This moves here. This goes here. This increases. This decreases. Not decreased or increased. Decreases, increases, fluctuates. So very present simple grammar that we're going to use here. Okay. Shall we start? I think so. So down the bottom here, we're going to brainstorm some vocabulary. So this is similar to the essays that we've done previously. It's important that we do brainstorm some vocab. Like I said with the essay episodes that you can watch a little bit later, it's like going to the gym and actually warming up. When we go there, we don't start, doing all these exercises immediately. We actually do some stretching, and this is like doing stretching for your mind. So brainstorm some vocab. What vocab are we going to use here? I've written down a couple of pieces of vocab that I would use in something like this. The first one is outlines and compares. this is really great vocabulary for the introduction, or the introductory paragraph of this. With Task 1 Academic, we must write an introductory paragraph. It's really important to give the reader an overview of what is next. After which, we're going to go to the next piece of vocabulary, which is beginning with. So this will start off one of the lines that we eventually talk about, beginning with. After that, this next piece of vocabulary is when we change focus to a different line. So here we have turning our attention to something. So we're shifting our focus to something else. So outlines and compares for the introductory paragraph, beginning with would start one of the lines that we would then talk about. Turning our attention to would start another line, and then we would talk about that line. This is interesting vocabulary here. At first glance. At first glance means when you do this. The first thing you see. What's the first thing you see? So when you look at this for the first time, when you turn and you look, what's the first thing you see? Like at first glance, it is clear that something, 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 something. So at first glance is good vocabulary to use when we're doing our academic task 1. The next piece of vocab we're going to use is a couple of pieces of vocab that you use when you are talking about the line changing directions. So for example, we can write here ... as in something has written before it, comma, after which. So we might say, for example, the line or the data indicates that consumption reaches 80 million, comma, after which it plummets or it drops sharply. So this is really good vocabulary for basically if you're talking about, if you're not wanting to break sentences into two, and you want to keep the sentences one whole sentence, this is really good vocabulary to help you do that. I would use after which in most academic task 1 pieces, and we'll talk about that in the future and in this episode. The next piece of vocabulary, or the next pieces of vocabulary, is when we talk about the third line. And again, we're shifting focus again. This is as far as X being the line, like as far as spaghetti is concerned, or as far as fettuccine is concerned, then is concerned. Is concerned means this is the thing we're talking about. So as far as spaghetti is concerned, blah, 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 blah. As far as macaroni is concerned, blah, 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 blah. As far as fettuccine is concerned, blah, 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 blah. You get the idea. So this is good vocabulary. So when you go into IELTS and you sit the test, you want to make sure you do this vocabulary at the very beginning to just get the mind moving, because you've studied a lot. We want to make sure that we capitalize on that when we actually enter the exam. Cool. That's it. That's step 2, brainstorming vocabulary. Next, we go into, hello, that's me. This is the document I'll give you at the end of the episode. Now we're going to start writing. So we need to think about, what are we actually going to say here? How are we going to open up? Starting is always the most challenging, and let's do that together here. So I've pre-written this, and today I'm just going to cut and paste individual little pieces for you to have a look at. Okay, the first little section we're going to do is this one here. Here we go. First sentence. Okay, let's look. We've got here, the line graph outlines and compares global sales volumes of 3 distinct types of pasta over a 25-year period. Now, you'll notice what I've tried to do is I've tried to use different vocabulary to what the question uses. So the question says different types of pasta from 1975 to 2000. What we're going to use is distinct types of pasta. So different becomes distinct, and 25-year period replaces 1975 to 2000. It's really important that we use different vocab, because if we don't, the examiner will look at it and think, well, this person's just copying the vocab from the question, which isn't ideal. You want to show the examiner that you've got vocabulary. You can use that vocabulary when you write, and this is a good way to start. So the line graph outlines and compares. So outlines, it shows, and compares, you can compare one against another. The line graph outlines and compares the global sales volumes, because remember it's tons, so it's a volume, of 3 distinct types of pasta over what period? Over a 25-year period. Good, good. Now, the other thing that we talked about with essay writing in previous episodes was that we want to make sure that each sentence is around minimum 15 words, maximum 25 words. Now, sometimes we'll go under 15 words if there are little sentences that sit at the end of paragraphs, but other times we will write within that range. We may also go above 25 words. If we're a good writer, we can definitely do that. Okay, next sentence. Now what we want to do is we want to tell the reader, so we want to show the examiner what we see. Okay, this one here. At first glance, so when we first look, at first glance, it can be seen. Now, be seen is passive voice. So instead of saying I can see, we say it can be seen that while introduces what's called a direct opposition clause, which is essentially two things that are opposite. So at first glance, it can be seen that while two trends exhibit positive growth overall, the third illustrates the opposite. And we talked about that before, that two are going up, one is dropping. We say overall because there are fluctuations in the middle. So at first glance, it can be seen that while two trends, two lines, show positive growth or exhibit positive growth, overall, the third illustrates the opposite. That, guys, is our first paragraph done. Now, that's going to be around about 40 words, I'm thinking. We can check later when we look at the word count at the end, but that's around 40 words, which means ultimately we only have to write another 110 to reach the 150. But what I would say here is don't aim for 150, aim higher. The minimum is 150. We want to go higher. So aim for like 170, 175, 180. Even if you go 190, 200 is probably too much. Maximum, I'd say around 190. 175, 180 is going to be perfect. Now, there is a lot happening here, so we might be hitting that sort of 185, 190 mark as we go through this. Okay, let's begin. Let's talk. So the first thing we have here is we're going to talk about spaghetti. Okay, what I'm going to do here, just before we read this, we're going to go up a little bit and look at the chart. So spaghetti goes up quite sharply, across, up again, and then no change. So up quite steeply. It still goes up, but more gradual. Then it goes up again, quite steep, and then across. So let's look at how we write this. Beginning with spaghetti, sales skyrocket. Skyrocket is sales skyrocket over the first 5 years, increasing sixfold. Now, sixfold means times 6. So if the sales volume was at 4 million, and then it goes up to 24 million, 6 fours are 24, so it goes up sixfold. Sixfold, you can actually say twofold, threefold, 15-fold, 50-fold. This is a piece of vocabulary that talks about multiplication of, okay? So beginning with spaghetti, sales skyrocket over the first 5 years, increasing sixfold. So what's interesting here, you can see we've got the comma, and then we've got the ing. What this really does is it allows us to make a statement like sales skyrocket, and then the comma ing gives us that sort of second level of detail. Okay, it has skyrocketed, but tell me more. So sales skyrocket over the first 5 years, increasing sixfold, and then continue to climb, but at a much slower rate. So yes, it goes up, and then it continues to climb, but at a much slower speed or rate. That's the first sentence. Our next sentence, let's go where it actually starts to go up again. By 1990, which is that inflection point where it goes up again, numbers reach 40 million. After which, there we are, the after which. So by 1990, numbers reach 40 million. After which they double over the following 5 years to 80 million. So far we've gone up, across, up. Done. That's the next sentence. We're now going to talk about that final part where there's no change. And here it is. The final 5 years sees sales neither increasing nor decreasing. This sentence is shorter than 15 words, but it's a really well constructed sentence. Let me explain why. The word sees is interesting because when we talk about see, we see. But sees is a piece of vocabulary we can use with academic writing, which indicates this is what we can see. So the final 5 years, it's like saying the final 5 years, we can see sales not going up and not going down, but staying the same. So the final 5 years sees sales neither increasing nor decreasing. Now, when you're talking about one thing and referencing that one thing, we've got here the neither. So it's like not and not. Not going up and not going down. So this is really good vocabulary to sort of move you into that upper range of IELTS band scores. Just remember, guys, we are writing a band 9 piece of writing today, which is, let's just say it's an indicative band 9. The reason why I would say it is an indicative band 9 is we're using some really strong connectors, really strong vocabulary, and we keep changing it throughout the task 1, so we're not repeating ourselves, which is really, really important. Cool. Okay. That's the end of spaghetti. We're now going to move on to fettuccine. Now let's go up again for a moment. Let's go up slowly. Hello again, that's me. Fettuccine is the light blue ones. This one drops, okay, then goes up. Great, a little bit. Yeah, it goes up, but maybe not as much as not as quickly as this. So we've got down, up, nothing. So down, up, nothing. Let's do that right now. So let's go down again. We're now going to start with as far as something is concerned, okay? And here we're going to change focus. Let's do that now. Now fettuccine. As far as fettuccine is concerned, so we've now changed topics. It reduces markedly from 1975 to... Do you know what we could do here, actually? I want to change one word. I'm not quite happy with this. I want to say, as far as fettuccine is concerned, volumes. Because we talk about tonnage, so volumes reduce. Okay, so when we say it, what we say it, I mean, I think we reference fettuccine, but here I'm actually going to reference the actual volume that we see on the side. As far as fettuccine is concerned, volumes reduce markedly. Markedly is like significantly. Volumes reduce markedly from 1975 to 1980, from that first down part, after which, now because we've changed it to volumes, we need to change this to they, and then the increases to increase. So I'm doing this live, guys. I'm changing this live because I think it's better for you. The final 5 years, yep, got that. So as far as fettuccine is concerned, volumes, so plural, volumes reduce markedly from 1975 to 1980, after which they increased dramatically to hit 80 million tons in 1990, which is double the figure for spaghetti in the same year. Now, you might remember in the question, it actually says make comparisons where relevant. We want to make sure that we give the examiner at least one comparison. It is important. So let's just look at this again. So as far as fettuccine is concerned, volumes reduce markedly, significantly, in the first 5 years, from 1975 to 1980, after which they increased dramatically to hit 80 million tons in 1990, which is double the figure for spaghetti in the same year. Let's go up again and have a look. What we've done here is we've taken it up to here. It's increased dramatically to 80, but then we're comparing this blue line here to this pink part here. Now, with the test, they will always give you something to compare. And this, as an author, I see as a relevant comparison because I can see that it's there for me. You could argue that these lines, these graphs, they are designed in such a way that it enables the test taker to pick something and go, that's what I'm going to focus on. And this one's quite an easy one because we've got 80 here and we've got 40 here. So that's our double right there. So far we've done this, we've done down, and we've gone up. Then we're going to go up again and across. Let's go down again. Okay, so yep, after which they increase dramatically to 80, which is double. So this comma which introduces the comparison. So blah, 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 comma, which is double. So that's our comparison. Now, the last sentence we're going to write about fettuccine is this one here. We've got the final decade sees. Again, we're using sees again because don't overuse it, but if you use it a couple of times, it's good. So the final decade sees, or we can see, sales skyrocket only to then level off. So just again, the final decade sees sales skyrocket only to then level off. Only to then is good grammar to indicate that something is happening that's quite different after that. So they skyrocket only to then level off. Level off is nothing's happening. Again, not going up, not going down. We're doing well here, guys. Okay, final paragraph for us today. The next sentence is we're going to be looking at macaroni. So let's do that now. Okay, copy this across. Here we go. Before we look at it, let's go up again and just quickly look at the macaroni piece. So macaroni is dark blue. It shows no change, up, down, up. So just again, no change, up, down, up. And that's what we're basically going to be talking about now. Let's do it. Turning our attention to macaroni. See that's how turning our attention, we're changing focus. Sales remain unchanged over the first 5 years. After which, again, showing the change, after which they show a slight increase only to then plummet over the following 10 years to 50 million. Plummet is down. It's like the opposite of skyrocket. Skyrocket, plummet. So this is very good vocabulary for us to use. Good. So we've done that part there. Our last sentence for today will be this one. So let me go up a little bit. Sales then rebound back. You could even delete the back here. We could even just say sales then rebound. Rebound is, we've gone down, then we're going up again. Boom, boom. Sales then rebound with the tonnage figure. So the tonnage, the tonnage is the noun for ton. It's another form of the verb we can use. So sales then rebound with the tonnage. Again, we could even delete figure. So sales then rebound with the tonnage for 2000 being 10 million less than what is recorded in 1975. So what's interesting here is what we've done is we've made a comparison between colors, but in this particular line, we're comparing the start and the finish. So we're saying that after the sales rebound, where they end is actually 10 million less than what was recorded when it started. Now, you've seen, guys, today, I've actually improved this a little bit because sometimes when you write and you read something again, it's good to change a few things because I think, okay, that's probably better than this. This is better than this. I'm really happy with this now. You can see the word count at the bottom here is 40, 98, 52. Now we have deleted a few words. This was 190. It's probably now 188, 187, something like that, which again is great. That's really what we've got, guys. Down the bottom here, again, I just want to make sure that we are clear about this. This is an indicative IELTS band score. It's not necessarily the actual score for this piece of writing, but using the band descriptors that is published by the parent company for IELTS, we can make a determination that task response is 9. We have answered exactly what the task has asked us to do. Coherence and cohesion. So coherence is can I understand it? The cohesion is the flow. Remember, the cohesion is really, really important here. Lexical resource, again, our vocab, we've also scored 9. And grammar range and accuracy, there are no grammar errors here, and it also is 9. So there we have it, guys. That's really how you write an IELTS line graph. Like I said, at the end of this episode, we're going to make sure that you guys have access to this piece of writing and you can download it and you can study it and go from there. So I hope you enjoyed today. I hope you got some value from today's episode. Please, if you don't already, follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, and on Facebook. We're regularly, posting and pushing out information for you guys. But like I say, at the end of this episode, this will be posted to YouTube, and you will have access to that downloadable document for you for access into the future. So thanks again, guys. My name is Adam. This is Live. and hopefully enjoyed today, and I'll see you on the next episode. Ciao, ciao.